What started as a cordial gubernatorial primary contest between Democrats Deb Haaland and Sam Bregman is starting to get spicy. An Albuquerque police officer fatally shot a man early Monday morning during a domestic violence call in the city's far southwest. 5 Starbucks stores in New Mexico shut down over the weekend as part of the company's broader plan to close hundreds of locations across North America. A first-grade teacher at East Pacheco Elementary School in Las Cruces was honored as New Mexico's 2026 Teacher of the Year. And a Santa Fe-based company has won a $150,000 NASA contract to design a lunar Wi-Fi system that will connect astronauts, rovers, spacecraft, and orbiting assets on the moon. From the Albuquerque Journal, this is the leading news. I'm Gino Gutierrez. It's Tuesday, September 30th, and I'll have more on those stories in a few moments, plus a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast on the other side of this break.
This episode is sponsored by the Kirtland Partnership Committee, a proud partner in supporting Kirtland Air Force Base and its vital role in New Mexico. From growing mission sets to improving quality of life for service members and families, KPC works every day to help Kirtland's workforce thrive. It's about partnership, progress, and a strong future for national security right here in Albuquerque. Discover more at kpcabq.org.
What started as a cordial gubernatorial primary contest between Democrats Deb Haaland and Sam Bregman is starting to get heated. With more on this, I'm now joined by the Journal's Capitol Bureau Chief, Dan Boyd. Dan, thank you as always for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Dan, as we touched on at the top, the primary contest between Deb Haaland and Sam Bregman starting to get a little bit more contentious. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I think we talked a couple weeks ago about Sam Bregman releasing his policy plan that included a lot of his stances or proposals on a lot of issues, healthcare, education, crime. Since that happened, we've seen the campaign for Deb Haaland, who's his primary rival in the Democratic primary race. She's come out and was critical of the plan, but has also accused him of plagiarism, of taking kind of large sections of this plan from different sources, from state agencies and from the legislative branch. Pretty serious allegations. On the other side, the Bregman campaign has kind of reiterated its challenge to Deb Haaland to debate him on these issues. They've even started a new website with a tracker on it. So I think, as you alluded to, that we started to see what was at first kind of a mild, friendly campaign, maybe not kind of bare knuckle, but certainly getting a little bit testier. And we're still, 8 months out from the primary next year.
And Dan, one really interesting point you brought up is Bregman and his campaign trying to pressure Haaland into debating him on some of these issues.
Yeah, so this is Sam Bregman kind of challenging Deb Haaland, to debate these issues. Important kind of context here. Deb Haaland, she's spoken out on a few issues. She's been critical of some of the cuts proposed by the Trump administration, but she has not kind of revealed a full kind of policy stances of her own. I have been in touch with her campaign. It sounds like some of those policy positions will be announced in the coming months, but unlike Bregman, who kind of did it all in one fell swoop, she's been a little more deliberative about kind of announcing these policy positions. And I think Bregman's kind of trying to hold her feet to the fire a little bit, so to speak, to where does she stand on crime, on education, on healthcare, on some of these hot button issues that we're seeing kind of play out statewide and on a national level as well.
And lest we forget, Dan, there's a third Democratic candidate that is running for governor. That is former Las Cruces Mayor Ken Miyagi-Shima. But as we've touched on multiple times during this interview, Haaland and Bregman are the two big-name candidates, and they also have the fundraising behind them to prove it.
Yeah, that's right. I think both those candidates, Bregman and Haaland, have the higher name recognition. You mentioned the fundraising. I think maybe to a certain extent, Ken Miyagi-Shima might be watching this play out and eating some popcorn and enjoying it to an extent. But he's got a lot of work to do to kind of boost his name ID outside of Las Cruces, where he used to be the mayor. But so far, it seems like Haaland and Bregman are really focused on one another as the primary rivals, in this race. And it's interesting to see that already this Democratic primary is getting a little heated. And on the Republican side, we really still don't even know what the field of candidates is. So clearly, they're kind of on different tracks when it comes to timeline for this governor's race next year.
Yeah, and you bring up the Republican side of this race, Dan. And so far, we've only had Rio Rancho Mayor Greg Hall declare his campaign. But outside of that initial announcement, it's kind of been radio silence from him.
Yeah, Greg Hall had confirmed his campaign. He'd planned to launch kind of a public event, a campaign launch event. That got postponed. And since then, you're right, we haven't heard as much. I can tell you talking to some Republican sources, there have been a lot of people considering the race, but no one has kind of taken the plunge to jump in. I think that's been interesting timing now that we're into the fall. And I thought by now we would have a little more clarity. Some people may think, since other candidates aren't jumping into, I don't need to as well. But it becomes a game of a chicken a little bit. And we still have a few more months until February when it's the actual campaign filing day.
And Dan, before I let you go, I want to lean on your expertise a little bit here. We just talked about how Greg Hall is the only Republican to declare for this race for governor so far. Given the fact that the Democratic side has Holland and Bregman, the two big-name candidates, and New Mexico has had a recent voting history statewide of being very blue, do you think that's contributing to the lack of Republican candidates we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think there's certainly some lobbying behind the scenes going on about different Republican candidates. I think on the one hand, they're probably watching these two prominent Democrats kind of rough each other up a little bit and maybe thinking that's a good thing, that some of them might be spending some of their resources and their time attacking each other instead of focusing on these other issues. On the other hand, if Republicans can't come up with a candidate that does have some statewide name recognition and appeal, this race, there's a chance it could, for all intents and purposes, be decided in the primary. And I think Republicans are hoping to have someone that can make this a contest, in the general election next year.
So the gloves may not be completely off between Deb Haaland and Sam Bregman's campaign, but they possibly may be half off given some recent shots we've seen them take at each other. Journal Capitol Bureau Chief Dan Boyd stopping by to share the latest on this with us. Thank you as always, Dan.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
In other headlines from the newsroom, an Albuquerque police officer fatally shot a man early Monday during a domestic violence call at the Villa de la Trisco apartments in the city's far southwest. Police Chief Harold Medina said officers responded around 3 a.m. and began negotiating with people inside, but after hearing a fight escalate, they forced entry. Officers reported seeing a man striking a woman with a hammer, prompting one of the officers to fire, killing the man. The woman escaped and was taken for medical care. This marks the 13th officer-involved shooting this year, matching all of 2024, and the 9th fatal one, surpassing last year's total. The man's identity has not yet been released, and the scene remains under investigation, though nearby Trisco Heritage High School was unaffected. This is a developing story, and we encourage you to visit abqjournal.com for any updates. 5 Starbucks stores in New Mexico, 3 in Albuquerque, 1 in Santa Fe, and 1 in Las Cruces, shut down over the weekend as part of the company's broader plan to close hundreds of locations across North America. Among them was the ABQ Uptown store, a popular spot for Albuquerque resident Stephen Cuomo, who said he often worked there and was disappointed to see it close. Starbucks CEO Brian Nichols said the closures target locations that either couldn't meet customer expectations or weren't financially viable. The company's North America store count now stands at nearly 18,300, down 1% from June. Starbucks is also cutting 900 corporate jobs while pledging to relocate affected employees when possible and provide severance if not. Looking ahead, the company plans to refresh more than 1,000 stores in the coming year and resume growth in 2026. For now, many local customers like Cuomo are left missing what it felt like their neighborhood coffee shop. East Pacheco Elementary School first grade teacher Nancy Orta has been named New Mexico's 2026 Teacher of the Year, honored during a surprise assembly where students cheered with blue and gold pom-poms. State Education Secretary Mariana Padilla praised Orta as, quote, the heart of our profession, highlighting her creativity, literacy work, and ability to build strong connections with both students and their families. A Las Cruces native and graduate of the district herself, Orta has taught for nearly 26 years and now shares a hallway with her husband, who teaches kindergarten. In addition to her classroom work, Orta also mentors student teachers at New Mexico State University and was awarded $10,000 by the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association for her professional development. She will also represent the state in the National Teacher of the Year competition. Orta, previously named Las Cruces Public Schools Teacher of the Year, said her philosophy is rooted in her father's advice to, quote, put 110% into everything. Her message to future teachers: show students love through patience, encouragement, and recognition of both their struggles and successes. And Santa Fe-based Solstar Space Company has won a $150,000 NASA contract to design a lunar Wi-Fi system that could connect astronauts, rovers, spacecraft, and orbiting assets on the moon. The 6-month Small Business Innovation Research Award will fund preliminary designs aimed at supporting NASA's Artemis program, which plans to return astronauts to the moon by 2027 and build a sustained human presence there. CEO Brian Barnett said the system will allow real-time data, navigation, and collaboration with hardware built to withstand space radiation and extreme temperatures. Unlike traditional wired units, the Wi-Fi units will be attached to spacecraft, rovers, and even spacesuits before launch, enabling connections once on the moon. Founded in 2017, Solstar has already made history with the first commercial Wi-Fi hotspot in space aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard and has worked with NASA and the U.S. Space Force on previous projects. Barnett called the new contract, quote, a seal of approval, saying Wi-Fi will be essential to lunar life just as it is on Earth. Earth. The Leading News is powered by the journalism of the Albuquerque Journal. If you enjoy hearing all of the stories we share with you here daily, please consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Journal by utilizing the discount code in our show notes. Every subscription helps support local journalism and allows us to provide you with the news that matters to you. Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast. Today you can expect mostly sunny skies with a high near 80, and as for this evening, mostly clear with a low around 55. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. That's the Leading News. I'm Gino Gutierrez. We'll be back tomorrow.